It's a, it's, it's a decision. It's a decision. Building, you don't wake up and you find it complete. You decide. And after deciding, you have to walk the journey and do everything that is needed to make sure that the wall yema, roof yatsena, mafester atsena. And we want to thank God. But before we get there, I want you to please do me a favor. People go through a lot, man. And nagongwe rnaloe for granted. Khopela uno mujisa wa lang khauslwe na sharp o right, you know, mujisa o sharp. Arashap. Ashap, push up. Ashap. I am going to talk about building God a house. Just to put everything into context and perspective, so that we don't just make noise about it and not have understanding. The people who are reading for me promised that they will project everything on the screen, because can already verse that I want to read. So I will not be evangelizing. I will be talking to you and teaching so that we get what? Understanding. Nothing beats understanding. Amen, Bazalwane? It is during this type of teachings where people sleep because they might not be too exciting, but they are grounding us. Are you ready for the word? I've got more than 10 verses that I want us to read, if not 20 verses. So if you have something to write, it's better that you take them and Divala later. Our first verse is going to be 2 Samuel chapter 7. We'll read verse 1 to 3, then from there we'll jump to verse 11. But before we get there, there are those who came after we welcomed the visitors. If you came after we welcomed the visitors and you are a visitor today, may you please lift your hand so we can see you and acknowledge your presence. I see hands, I see hands, I see hands. Can you stand? Please stand. Please stand. Those who lifted up their hands, please stand. Please stand. Barnabas, we love you. We welcome you. We appreciate your coming. May the good Lord bless you. Can somebody hug them who is close to them there? Tell them you are welcome. Come again next week. Baba tell them so happy. Yeah. As soon as we finish with this service, please don't leave immediately. Please, they requested that we'll sit on the far right, but maybe we can use the tent because it's still up. All the visitors after, when we finish, you'll go to the tent outside. God is good. Clap for the children's church. It has started. When Exi was talking here, I thought Exi will talk to us as parents. Or so that one is not Sunday school. They will not be doing memory verses here and singing. What they will be doing here, they will be going both anakereke kwa obale MC kakwa obele vopaki kakwa babe barere kakwa. So please, the teachers, don't do a duplicate of Sunday school, because that one is church. So we want them when they come here, and rebaruta basale ba banyana. So when ngwana next week o tsose bo mmao ka 4 ya matsha or le ka 3 o botse mama gore a ke tlo tsana kerekeng late ke kry bana ba fetša kwa a ba etla mo kereke maketši. I want to be part of that. Antši re na le o tloela bana ba rena ko morago mola a na le 16 years ko ona re nyako mo phološa o tlo ba re, Mom, what's wrong with you? Because I'm not used to this. Kante once e ka ba tshwara ile bana ba ola le yona man. Bibele re teach them the way they should go, and they will never depart from it. Are we ready to start? 2 Samuel, we are there. And it came to pass when the king sat in his house, and the Lord had given him a rest round about him from all his enemies. So David, wile are anja elwa dintwa wa fitla position or a point where he relaxed, he found rest in his own house. Versioning where then where it says it sat in his house, it says he lived in his house. There came a time where he lived in his house. There was a time there came a time where he lived in his house. And God gave him what? Please read with me here. God gave him what? Rest. Round about. Round about the roaring. All around. And what? Yare from all his enemies. When I saw the pollution, but more feel kucho ye holo ya ofeta di lokamoka. Bana beso a get the awena. Hapa usa pollution ukitimisa ke ntongo le nngwe le go bona a fly it's ana ka mo taxi mo re ba fitile. Mara I saw the pollution modimo re feel rest from all our enemies. And David got to that place, and not only that, he had a house to live in. And his house was one of the best. He was a king and he had a house. And continue with the verse. Verse number 2.
The king.
Verse number 2.
2, yeah. The king summoned Nathan, the prophet.
Yes.
Look, David said, I'm living in a beautiful cedar palace, but the ark.
Behold, I'm living in a beautiful palace. In other words, my house is beautiful. It's not just a house, it's a beautiful house. Continue.
But the ark of God is out there in a tent.
But problem of God, the ark of God is in a tent. Remember, the ark of God was actually a symbol of the presence of God. Botata kore, the ark of God is in what? In a tent. Maranna, I'm living in a beautiful house. This man was concerned, I'm also concerned about the house of God. But you just say water and water comes. Where you just breathe, things happen. And Bazalwane, please don't ever feel guilty of the blessings of God in your life. You must do what? Enjoy it. Because and that's why we can't afford to be jealous. When somebody has a beautiful house, we must appreciate them. And today I want to clap hands for all people who have beautiful houses in their house. And David Liena, he acknowledged that I live in a beautiful house. Maybe Pastor Sky Fita Capella. He acknowledged that I live in a beautiful house. I live in a beautiful house. Marai's concern was that the problem was the ark of God. Ikara tent. And until it's a problem. Because David's understanding was that the ark of God should be in a better place than my own house. Because when you talk about the ark of God, the presence of God. It can't be in a messed up place and I live in a better place. What David is saying is that the presence of God is more valuable than me. And how can the presence of of God be in a broken, tattered tent. Nakidule in a better house. This is an error. And I want to correct this. Because I live in a better house, but look at the presence of God. It's in a tent. And continue reading.
Nathan replied to the king, Go ahead and do whatever you have in mind, for the Lord is with you.
Go ahead and do what? Build God a house. Or I want to build God a house. And or go ahead, build God a house. Because unale concern, how cannot be better than the house of God. In fact, this is a revelation I got. My house should never be better than the place where I worship. It is amen. My house should never be better than the house of God. If my house is 5-star, what are the house of God? Something going to create other stars, even 7 stars. But that is the right way of doing things. But it's vice versa. You find that my house, it's way better. Yagaki 5, yamudimuki 0 star. But ape mo arna star. Let's just one arna son. Or nalo son. Let's just one nyan. Moka mo staging. Or sky pura karam kukuba tramudi maona star. But what David is saying is that I don't want to be in a better place and the house of God ibe karamarata. I want the presence of God ibe in a better place. And Nathan will and do that which God laid in your heart. Bazaran, God laid a building in my heart. He laid a building in your hearts. And we shall go ahead and build God a house. That thing deserves a hand. It deserves a hand because in your heart, and we are going ahead. We are going to build God a house. Read verse 11. Verse 11. Just read also, Thalia, if they...
Starting from the time I appointed judges to rule my people Israel.
Yeah.
And I will give you rest from all your enemies.
Yeah, continue.
Furthermore, the Lord declares that he will make a house for you, a dynasty of kings.
Give verse 11. Dafita urmudimu, I want to build a house for you. I'm concerned about your house. I want your house to be better than mine. I want your house this. Your house must be better. Your house must be better. Mudimu a reply, arwena ukas are a house for me. Because you killed a lot of people. You fought a lot of battles. And in the process, you killed a lot of people. But your son will build a house for me. Which is who? Solomon. But that verse that we are reading, Mudimu Ur, because you are interested and you are concerned about my house, I'm going to build your house. I don't know if I read it well. God is saying, if you build my house, I will build your house. And I want to show you today how God built the house of David. Because the truth is, no man can actually build a house of God. In fact, I met one old man who had a dream. And my dream has always been to build God a house. I don't want to die before I build God a house. And I was asking him, why do you want to build God a house? And he said, if I ever build God a house, I know God will build a house for me beyond me. Which means the house that God is going to build for me is not just for me. It's for my children and their children and their children. And that's why to this day, we are speaking of the house of David. When we talk about the house of David, we are not talking about a physical building. We're speaking about a blessing upon all the descendants of David because David intended to build God a house. When we only think about ourselves and we think when I get a salary it's just for me. And when we build a house for God, we are wise when we know that when God has given me resources, he has given me resources so that I can build for him, so that he can build for me. You cannot build a house for God. Touch your neighbor and say, if you build God a house. No, that's not the restoration I know. Tell them and say, if you build God a house, he will build your house. Maybe before I get too carried away, I just need to show you 2-3 things that happens in this house that we are talking about. The house of God. Remember the house of God in the Bible, they will either use the word tabernacle, they will either use the word sanctuary, they will either use the word temple. So whenever you see these 3 name words, because a sanctuary is a place that is set apart for God. It's a holy place. A tabernacle is a place of dwelling, a habitable place. Temple is a house of worship. All of these things mean the same thing. So we need to build God a house, because in the house of God, there's these few things that are happening. Number 1, are you ready? God's people seek him there. Psalm 63, verse 1 and 2. Psalm 63, verse 1 and 2. God's people, oh God, you are my God. Yeah,
Oh God.
okay, you are my God. Early will I seek thee. My soul thirsteth for thee. My flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land where no water is. Continue in the next line. To see thy power and glory, so I have seen thee where? In the sanctuary. So a house of God is a place where we come and seek God. How in our houses? How on the street? God is everywhere. But I want to tell you that a house of God is a place of an appointment with God. This is where we are sure, no matter what, because David told, I seek your face where? In the sanctuary, in a dwelling place, in a place that is set apart. So the house of God is a place where we come and seek God. Some of us are really. Some of us are but when we come here, I thought I would have witnesses there, because I think to the house of God the way we came, because every time and that's why we must build God a house, because that's a place where people, even they will go there and seek the face of God, and they will find it. But sanctuary, the house of God. Number 2, a house of God is a place of fellowship. Acts chapter 2, verse 46 to 47. It's a place of what? Fellowship. Acts 2, if you are there, please put it up there. Put it up there, 2, 46 to 47. And they continuing daily with one accord in what? They continually daily. And they continuing daily with one accord in what? In the temple. And breaking what? Bread from house to house. Did eat their meat with gladness and what? And singleness of heart. The following verse. Praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. Now look at something. The house of God was not only the house of prayer. It was not only the house of where we meet God. It was also a place of fellowship. But something must always be open. Fellowship verse. You know, how are things going with you? No, things are no, how is business? How are you doing? No, I was trying to sell my guinyamo like a failure. And okay, how can we assist you? This is where we come and fellowship. That's why the doors of this house must be open every day. Like a holiday. Because I come here. There's a verse in the Bible where a woman was praying and the priest was there. So the woman would come. After prayer, they would have a chat. One day, the priest even said to her, that was just at a level of fellowship. Talking to say, how are things? What's going on with your life? But when we come to the house of God, this is where we come to fellowship. That's why attitude here bad. Leave it at home. Don't come with it to church. Because during the week, I've come to fellowship. Not only to pray, but I've also come to fellowship with brethren. That's why leave it outside. Because when you come to the house of the Lord, you have come to a place of fellowship. If you hear me wave and say, I've also come to fellowship. Because the house of God, it's also a house of fellowship. Number 3. It's also a house of empowerment. Somebody say it's an empowerment center. It's an empowerment center. Numbers 11, verse 24. It's an empowerment center. But this is true. Some of us learned to speak in front of people. Training center. Some of us trust because o train ko kerekeng o bontse gore ke a le dumedisa ka leina a ska la actor ka ra le itsebe ntwe ke bolela o ka re lena no thoma le diguru le gona o bolela re thomile kerekeng ra ithuta ona mo ile bopaki ile senior choir batho ba o lebeletse o ija ke ditlhong wa ba wa tlwaela. It's an empowerment center. Some of us, our communication skills are di kra ko sekolong a re no bang honest kwa sekolo ba no add a cherry on top. The protocol. You will learn these things in church because church is a training center. Some of us skills to help us to where we are. Most of people who are doing motivational speaking, mistake ikore eba thoma ipona le motivational speakers abasa ipitsa the preachers ba ipitsa the motivational speakers mara botsotse ke baruti batho ba. They started in church tjatjila mathomo o ntshitse verse Matthew 1 verse 3 abala Luka re a tseba. But over time, the skill sets are perfected. This is a training center. That's why we don't laugh at anyone here. Even if you make mistakes, we don't laugh. Slow. Get a malina, slow. Kirarute. Look how Sahonu bina. Reobon. Eba yakama banya bayangale. Weno yangale. Abanya bayangale. Weno yangale. Reatbar lernar tomilo nambo. This is where we get trained, all of us. I don't know if there's any house that is better than the house of God. Because it's also a place of what? Empowerment. There is the verse. And Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord and gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people and set them round the tabernacle. Continue. And the Lord came down in a cloud and spake unto him and took of the spirit that was upon him and gave it unto the 70 elders. And it came to pass that when the spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and did not cease. Where did they learn this thing? Around the tabernacle. They did not wake up and say, I can prophesy and start seeing people's numbers. They learned the prophecy around the tabernacle. And I want to tell you the truth. That's why I every Sunday. I am still in training. That's why I'm always here. I'm not there yet. The time but the reason why I'm coming here is so that I can also be empowered and be trained. So when we build the restoration center, we are building an empowerment center. That's why we cannot afford to build a church that is just one big room like this. We must have a church that has got classes and offices. Because we are building an empowerment center. Why do you it can't be. We are building a center of empowerment. What's job creation in this thing that we are building? There must be offices. Full-time people must work in this sanctuary because we are building an empowerment center. If you hear me say it's an empowerment center. The house of God is a place of provision. It's a place of provision. That is Isaiah 4, verse 5 to 6. God provides covering even to his people. It's a place of provision. Mudimu hari tantong ya hai war provided. Baba ngori tilemo risanyalo raftaranyalo. Baba ngori or did mistake. Kiko gar kuletin trace anyaki. Baba ngori tilemo sna mutwar bona ra rotsa namba tomorrow. What a wona. We're not like bo bona kai mere bophelo ba ile home work home. O tsanto fela o eta o mingila mo. It's holy and holy and holy. Real conference is a conference. Brother, wako mututong au sopela liito arao nyala. Mudima provide nyala where? In the sanctuary. It's not only finances that God provides. He provides everything, including covering. Now the verse we are reading is about covering. And the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and a smoke by day and the shining of flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense. In the sanctuary, when the tabernacle is there and the covenant box is there, there is always a covering. A cloud during the day. By night is a pillar of fire. Mudimu provide a covering. It is just beyond that. Some of us came to the sanctuary, listening mothers and fathers. Since we came here, we've got mothers and fathers. Do you know some of us, we are orphans? But when we came to the house of God, to the sanctuary, now we've got fathers and mothers. There's somebody you can call dad. Some of us grew up with daddy. Mara since you can pick a father or mija papa. You can pick a mother or mija my mother. You can pick a brother or mija brother. Hey, domestic worker. Since I came to the sanctuary, I've got a brother who is a lawyer. How about that? Sure, you can take a phone and call your sister who is a nurse. Privilege of phone or my sister. I know why you call it your sister who is but they want to be reserved and they don't want to mingle with people. If you are a nurse, you are my sister and come hire a nurse. What's more only Dr. West because of Dr. Nakamuk. Rebecca Kawe, not Rakamoer, Docotela, and Reka Scaladian trailer, Scala, La Gran Romela message, and you go consult via the phone. But I'm just saying, Renale Dr. Kamohai. Whatever it is, man, in our own families are not John. Today, we are very safety. Because come over now, safety. Renalba Toberaka Red Young, come over in Nakam. Renaldi Principal, come on, yeah. You are not small. Clap hands for yourself. In a sanctuary, God provides covering and refuge. It is in the house of God. If you are next to someone who is not jealous, Mojori, I'm your brother, you're my sister, and I'm going to cover you. I'm here for you. I'm here. Check out how or exe. I'm here for you. I will provide covering for you. I love what I see at the back there. People are doing it even physically, covering one another. Now you are not going to follow well. That's why I guess I photo go jealous, keep a good toy, because me and you are one. Nalu and are the same WhatsApp group. Thank God for the sanctuary because it has provided a covering for us. Some of us very often, the tabernacle provided a covering for us.
Because the house of God has provided a cover.
It is only in the house of God where you find people who genuinely take you under their wings. My brother, my sister. Under their wings, and they mean it. It was 1990 or 2000. My sister in the same house for years. You understand what that means? This is east and west. But we have to stay in the same house, cook the same food, eat the same food for years. And then she became a sister. Where can you get that under the sun? Where can you get that under the sun? It is only in the house of God. You can find a sister here. Come on, touch one and say, I'm choosing you as my sister. In the sanctuary, I found a family. In the sanctuary, I found a covering. Because in the sanctuary, mudimu war cover. When we talk about covering, we also talk about from different backgrounds. Some of us were raped. Some of us were abused emotionally. Some of us, no one was able to stand us. Some of us, no one would stand us. Look at America, our attitude was stinking because of where we come from and what we dealt with. And we feel more attitude mara wa kumana family ya no cover away so. What's my family? Family pela ina tabar when au shapo perfect or perfect in a family. Aurur perfect. No cover anjero tsbor awa luka usana lo satan rbuncha anjero cover. Ngyo mujor mo kar babulela ka wena mo. Oh, it's in the house of God where we find covering. I remember when I got saved. I move on, brother. Move on, sister. Got the PMS already cut. But what pollution no tadu ma pollution. Ba per dia petse di white, tja di silky nyana tja so nyana. Di really ka thaitela tja di sesane. O tsena o bona rena ke ngwana modidi uno ijaja o sa tsena. Hai mo a ke qualify. But when you check them, you realize that they are not from rich families. Pollution ba phuthe ba dia batho. Ke tsena mela ke dutse mola. One brother wrote me a letter I will never forget. He went to Gauteng, he wrote a letter. Phone. I never received a letter in my whole life. How can mutunyana fela mo strata no receive marokhonyana di aswa? Letter. Oh, what's a telegram letter? And then one day ka kwa ke bitso ba re una le letter ko poso. Poso be le mo shopong ye tipe. Na letter ba re ke ha o ngwa le lina lao ka botlalo. Ape letter no to ba tsama o iswere so mo strata hore batho ba kishore. You got a letter. You were very special to receive a letter. And I got that letter. It's a brother from church who was working somewhere in Gauteng. And he said very strong words I will never forget. When God chose you, and Bona, this is great. This is what is going to happen. What size do you wear? Kita reply agree. Munola na ke sa monanela go reply byang aba wa boya a boya tape a rekile moccassin la o tsama moccassin wa tsama mocca bana mocca la o tseba na awa mocca ne le seeta sa ona sa bo brother moccassin le seeta sa sengwe sa chaspere ka mo sa wofa ka mo a tla le tsona. Le tie, I'll never forget Yamantariana. So, Atali Jonan, Tela Jonar, For the first time, ke apara seeta sa ba le hile ya botse mo cousin. Ke apere because I found a brother in church. We are not even blood related. Polosho e sa le pho. O sena motho a nyako shine over another. Ka tsena ka mora yona, and the reason why ke apeletse wa apara empe be ke nyako le tlhalosetsa ka yona. Empe nkile ka ba le yona. Mara ile la sakanyana la opola ya o shine too much. Antela le empe o modimo le yona fela. So every Saturday ke a tlhatswa, Sunday ke a aina, ke a tsena Saturday ke re ka mo cousin ke polichiche chasperenyana ire. He ke feta mo strata batho ba change language ba brother is gale ba change ba pastor le nna ka bona ra le mo bolo a ke sa qualify ta ba re ke tloa bolong ka Sunday ke apara empe ya silky so ke file ke brother wa ka wa ko kerekeng wa bereka magwe. Church is meant to be family. And the reason why we want to build God a house, we know that it's going to be a covering for all kinds of people. Anybody that needs shelter, church is for them. Anybody that needs a mother, they must go to the sanctuary. They will find a mother. Anybody that needs a father, go to the sanctuary. You will find a father. Somebody say, I've come and I found what I've been looking for. Church is also a place of miracles. Here is a woman who comes praying for a child. And just rapela wa no ta motho bana no bolela. A re bothata ba o ke a ke na ngwana a wena o kra ngwana. Next year o tlo bontsha una le ngwana. Ka kerekeng. A woman who was barren received a child. In the church, a woman who was barren, a womb was opened. This woman could not go anywhere else. This woman had to choose to go to a sanctuary. At about in the sanctuary, that's where miracles take place. The reason why we came here is because some of us, our issues are very urgent. And we know training. I need to go to the house of the Lord. Some of us, we drag ourselves sometimes to church. If it means, but if I find myself in the house of God, I know my miracle is there. So for you to be one who partake in building the house, you must be blessed and privileged. You are building a house of miracles. Because church is a place of miracles. More restoration at home. Some of us were sick, we came here, we are healed. Today we are working. We are operationing and things will be worse. And today you are well. Because church is a place of miracle. I thank God for this mukuku. Because this mukuku was not just mukuku, it's a tabernacle, it's a sanctuary, it's a temple, it's a place of miracles. Some of us today, you don't see this as a miracle. For me, it's a miracle because I remember where we started. There was a time where only 2 cars will park outside. Today we are losing count. You don't see that as a miracle. And do you know that if you don't have one, yours is also coming? Yeah, amen. That's the truth. Because you are not going to stay the same. Coming to the sanctuary every day, going back home the same. Coming to the sanctuary every day, going back home the same. Because this is a place of miracles. We can't go anywhere for miracles. We come to the sanctuary. This is a place of miracles. And I want to decree and declare that even this morning, miracles are possible in a sanctuary. Because you don't come to a sanctuary and go back the same way you came. It's a place of miracles. Somebody say, Lord, locate me in a sanctuary. I can't hear you say, locate me. Even this morning, we know we are talking about building, but Lord, locate me, because your house is a house of miracles. Hey. Yeah. Well, David, when you will not build me a house, but your son will. And God says, I am going to build your house when you build my house. And it's worse. David did not even build the house by himself. It took the son to build on behalf of the father, even though the material used belonged to David. Because David prepared for the building of the temple, but Solomon then built the temple for the Lord. So mudimu bone pilu ya Dafita unyoko aga unyoko nkagela before aihwa. Mara mudimu akwisha even though I argue not directly, his resources will partake in the building of the house. Then Solomon then took the resources from his father. He started building. Hey, when they were building, God was also building underground in the spirit realm. He never left the house of David. And he never left the children of David. Can I show you 2-3 examples if we have time? And before we get there, man, these are the blessings. Psalms 37 verse 22. Psalms 37 verse 22. Can we go there? Let's go to Psalms 37 verse 22. In fact, 37. I'm gonna read many verses there. Really on Psalms 37. The house of David. The house of David is the children of David. When you build God a house, God will build what? Your house. There will be a blessing upon you, upon your children, and upon their children. Verse 22 reading. For such as be blessed of him shall inherit the earth, and they that be cursed of him shall be cut off. This verse speaks about the children of a man who is blessed by God. Maybe we Tomega 21. NLT, I think it will make sense. NLT, because Kinyo Leon. It's 21 really on. It's in 21. Yeah. The wicked borrows and payeth not again. Kinyaga NLT, this is not NLT. But the righteous showeth mercy and giveth. Continue. Verse 22. Verse 22. Yeah. Continue reading. Yes.
Those the Lord blesses will possess.
For those blessed by him shall inherit the earth, but those cursed by him shall be cut off.
Continue verse 23.
The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way.
That verse speaks of a man who is blessed by the Lord. He shall inherit the earth. Hamudimu a agantlo ya hao. Inheritance. Inheritance of what? Of the earth. You shall inherit the earth. Those who are not blessed by God shall be cut off. But those who are blessed by God shall do what? Inherit the earth. Underline, inherit the earth. But ba naba mutu wa uluk, ba naba mutu wa utonolo fala, asiri namba musila bupilo. They inherit kidi khoshi mulfasi. Ba naba how itaba di khoshi when you are blessed by the Lord. And anybody that is cursed shall be cut off. After the steps of a righteous man are ordered by God. So the children of a blessed man, their steps are ordered by God. At that time, God shall order their steps. Now listen to this. Verse number 23. Or I've never seen. Read verse 23.
The Lord directs the steps of the godly.
Yes.
He delights in every detail of their lives.
Yes.
Though they stumble, they will never fall.
Yeah.
For the Lord holds them by the hand.
Jalapi.
Once I was young, and now I am old.
Yeah.
Yet I have never seen the godly abandoned,
Yes.
or their children begging for bread.
And their children doing what?
Begging for bread.
I've never seen their children begging for bread. Dafita, I want to build you a house. God says, I will build your house. And when God is building your house, the steps of your children will be ordered by God. When God is building your house, your children shall inherit the earth. When God is building your house, your children will never beg for bread. No, bakas khupele marot. Bakas thome line ya tsamaya ba o khupela. I'm loving Psalms 112 verse 1. Psalms 112. Inobala oikrele. Psalms 112. I'm left with 10 minutes. We are out. 112. Please read.
How joyful are those who fear the Lord and delight in obeying his commands.
Oh yes.
Their children will be successful in every way. An entire generation.
Their children will what? Well, their children will what?
Will be successful in everywhere.
I can't hear you. Their children will what?
Will be successful everywhere.
I can't hear you also, Thelia. Their children
Their
will
children
what?
will be successful.
Their children will.
Their children will be successful.
Yeah, their children will be successful in every way. If you build me a house, I will build your house. How do I build your house? Your children will be successful in every way.
An entire generation of godly people will be blessed. They themselves will be wealthy and their good deeds will last forever.
Mine says they will be. Read this one. Bala, verse 3.
They themselves.
Wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endure for. You will never compete with the children of a blessed man. A blessing is not money. A blessing is more than money. Money can be finished. But when a blessing is not there, even when money is gone, they are destroyed. But when a blessing is there, they will rise again. Because their success is not just monetary. Their success is because of a blessing. And the people, if you build a house for God, your children will be successful in every way. How I love 22 verse 17, Psalms 22:17, 22:17. I may tell all my bones, they look and stare upon me. Continue. In the next verse.
They divide my clothes among them, and cast lots for my garments.
Yes.
But you, Lord, do not be far from me. You are my strength. Come quickly to help me.
Yes.
Deliver me from the sword, my precious life from the power of the dogs.
Yes.
Rescue me from the mouth of the lions. Save me from the horns of the wild oxen. I will declare your name to my people. In the assembly I will praise you. You who fear the Lord, praise him.
Which version were you reading? Listen to mine. Is it the same version as yours?
No.
Psalm 22, verse 17.
Or nakabalayona? No. Kidile pause. Ki Genesis 22. Ki akorje inkisa marabastat. Yeah, verse 17, please read.
22:17.
Yeah, 22:17, but Genesis. Read.
I will certainly bless you. I will multiply your descendants beyond number, like the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will conquer the cities of their enemies.
Possess. Your descendants will do what?
Will conquer the cities of your enemies.
Possess. Your descendants will do what?
Possess the gate of his enemies.
Your descendants will do what?
Possess the gate of his enemies.
When you build God a house, he will build your house. Let's take the last one. 25, verse 12. Genesis 25, verse 12.
This is the account of the family of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, through Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian servant.
Continue.
Here is the list by their names and clans of Ishmael's descendants. The oldest was
Yeah. Awa ke a ukisha ngwana ka le nna ke fitla na mo we. Ke bile le mathata.
Nebaioth, followed by Kedar.
Niba what? Niba? Continue.
followed by Kedar, Adbeel,
Yes.
Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Masa, Hadad, Tema,
Usana le mata o bala.
Jetu,
Tswela pele.
Jetu, Nafish,
Yeah.
and Kedema. These 12 sons of Ishmael became the founders of 12 tribes named after them,
Yeah.
listed according to the places they settled and camped.
Yes.
Ishmael lived for 137 years. Then he breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death.
Now, one thing that you can pick from that, Obadila, how many sons? 12. And out of 12 sons, would you live at Tobakai? 110? Eh? Would you let 12 tribes? And out of 12 tribes, would you live at Tobakai? A tribe, is it a group of two? It's a group of many. So we are talking about 12 tribes. That's a nation. What was the promise of God upon Abraham? Your children will be like what? The stars. The sandals. The sandals of what? So there will be many. This was not a curse, it was a blessing. Can you go disappoint to see? When you are blessed, it doesn't look like a burden to you. It comes as a blessing. What's about when you are not blessed? Bana ba ka tabali 3. Wa kwa o ka rona le bana ba 20. Motlhomongwe a ba o mo 1. Wa kwa o ka rona le bana ba 100. Because se letsatsi le tlhaba o betha ka stress sa bana ba 10. During the day o betha ka stress sa bana ba 20. At the end of the day we'll finish off. But when you are blessed, your children then becomes tribes, which are not just tribes that are highly blessed by God. And one day you will sit around and say, God, thank you for all the gifts that you have given me in a form of my own children. I want to close with these words. I want to close with these words. 59 years later, Dafita afuluile stulon sa bogoshi. Remember, he promised God that I want to build your house. Mudimar, if you build mine, I'll build yours. But 59 years later, after Jule Bogoshi, something happened in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, verse 9. 1 Kings 11, verse 9. Moari Chieleona also Thelia, 11, verse 9. This is important. How many years?
The Lord was very angry with Solomon,
Yes.
for his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice.
Yeah.
He had warned Solomon specifically about worshipping other gods,
Okay.
but Solomon did
Verse
not
11.
listen.
Verse 11.
So now the Lord said to him, since you have not kept my covenant and have disobeyed my decrees,
Yeah.
I will surely tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your servants.
Yes.
But for the sake of your father David,
Yeah.
I will not do this while you are still alive. I will take the kingdom away from your son. And even so, I will not take away the entire kingdom. I will let him be king of one tribe for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, my chosen city.
Two things happened. God made a promise to David, I will build your house. When I build my temple, I will build your house. 59 years later, the man who was appointed to build the temple misbehaved. When he misbehaved, God wanted to destroy him. Two things happened. One, he remembered the covenant he had with his father. Two, he said to him, this kingdom is supposed to be divided and be given to someone else, but not when you are still alive. He delayed judgment. You see, Hamudima would say, At this time, the man who was promised is no longer alive. Mar the son is misbehaving. Mara modimo re ke a o bona re o tsuletsele o nyetse basadi ba 900 or ke se ba 1000. I don't like what you are doing, but I want to destroy you, but I remember the promise I made to the man who said, I want to build a house for God. Ari, I will be merciful to you because of your father, not because of you. So if we are alive, more restoration, maybe 100 years from now we will not be here. May the Lord remember our hard labor. May the Lord remember our contributions. Maybe your son is going to be a Solomon one day who deserves punishment. Rightfully so. May the Lord say, I want to destroy you. I want to take the kingdom out of your hands and give it to strangers. But when I remember the covenant I have with your father, I would rather not do it while you are still alive. I would rather delay judgment and rather not do it while you are watching. When you build God a house, God will never forget what you have done for him. 59 years later. I'm not 59 don't even know him. But because of that which God made as a promise to that man, he said, I won't do this to you because of the covenant I have with your father. I thought that was the only thing. I thought that was the only thing. But 86 years later, in 1 Kings 15, verse 1, how many years? 86 years. More than a lifetime. But 70, 86 years. 86 years later, something happened. 1 Kings 15, verse 1. God, now in the 18th year of King Jeroboam, the son of Nabat reigned Abijah over Judah. Continue. 3 years. Yeah, continue.
He reigned in Jerusalem 3 years.
Yeah.
His mother was Maacah, the daughter of Absalom.
Yes.
He committed the same sins as his father before him.
Yeah.
And he was not faithful to the Lord, his God, as his ancestor David had been.
Okay, so Abijah was not faithful like his grand ancestor, as a grandfather, who 86 years ago is not faithful like him. He's committing sin like his father. And then?
But for David's sake, the Lord his God allowed his descendants to continue ruling, shining like a lamp, and he gave Abijah, the son, to rule after him in Jerusalem.
For David's sake, Mudimur Abijah is a sinful man. I want to destroy his kingdom. But for David's sake, I would rather take the kingdom from him and give it to his son, not to the enemies. For the sake of the man who died 86 years ago, the man who said, I want to build God a house, and who provided materials to build the house of God. And God preserved the kingdom for David's sake. Listen on. 156 years later, something happened. 2 Kings chapter 8. Something happened. I love this one. You can read verse 16 to 19 in your spare time. Let me just explain. Jehoram, son of Jehoshaphat. Now Joram or Jehoram was married to the daughter of Ahab. And the daughter of Ahab is a witch. Her name was Jezebel. But Jezebel is married to the son of Jehoshaphat. And Jehoshaphat is the grandson of David. So the son of a blessed man atsena ka lapeng le le wrong a nyala ngwana moloi. Lesalo wana bana beso. His father is dead 156 years ago. But something happened. Maybe read verse 19. Verse 19. He's married to this witch. And what happened?
But the Lord did not want to destroy Judah, for he had made a covenant with David and promised that his descendants will continue to rule.
Yeah, because of the evil of this woman.
No tshwanetse gore Modimo a destroy Judah. But when God looked at Judah and he wanted to destroy Judah, he could not destroy Judah. Ari, who is ruling Judah? I don't want this, what this woman is doing. But because of the covenant and the promise I made to David, I promised him that his children will continue to rule. So he could not destroy Judah. But if you make a covenant with God and say, I'm gonna build you a house. When I build you a house, please build my house. Let my house never be destroyed. Even 156 years after I'm gone. Can we take the last one? 300 years later. 2 Kings 19, verse 34. 300 years later. 300 years, but 300 years later, something happened.
For my own honor and for the sake of my servant David, I will defend this city and protect it.
Yo, for the sake of who? 300 years ago. For my own honor and for the sake of that one who died. And I will do what? I will protect this city. And what happened? Continue.
That night, the angel of the Lord went out to the Assyrian camp and killed 185,000 Assyrian soldiers.
Banna, that night, 185,000 enemies of the children of David. And the reason why is God is remembering a man who lived 300 years ago who made a covenant with God to build a house for him. And Mudimo Ari, let the enemies who are coming against his children die. 185,000 of them. Bible like one angel. You need to understand that your children's children will face enemies. Mudimo tabula the chronicles of your life. I check out mara musadi woman, musadi wo ngila pila 400 years ago. Balama mukuku ko restoration somewhere mo ba reng ke mafiasi motho mo taba e change leina re tsebe by then. But that woman bought a brick for my house. Even now as I speak, the house is standing. There is a brick number 27. It was bought by Mrs. So and so. She lived 500 years ago. And for the sake of that woman, let the enemies that are coming against his children die overnight. 185,000 enemies on the ground because somebody made a vow. I will build a house of a God. You see, when we build God a house, it's not temporary. It's permanent. Do you know that this house we are talking about was once destroyed? It got destroyed. But God still referred to the house that he built. Are the men who built a house for me. But the house is destroyed. But God still said he built a house for me. People came, but he built a house for me. Which means even if you go away and something comes, he will always remember the house that we built for him. Who am I to build a house for you? If you did not allow David to build it, who am I to build a house for you? I must count myself blessed. For me to partake in the building of the house of God, it must be a blessing and honor for me. And that's what we are going to do. And remember, we are not doing it just for us. We are doing it for the generation to come. And there are generations to come. Let us leave a lasting legacy for our children and their children. In the mighty name of Jesus. Lord, we say yes. Yes to your will. We will build a house for the Lord. We are going to build a house for God. We will build a house. When we have time, we are going to read about the resources that they had to bring to build the house. All of them were valuable. All of them were necessary. No one brought anything that was not needed. all of them brought things that were necessary. In the book of Exodus, I think it's 25, where God says, tell them, instruct them to bring an offering to build the house of the Lord. He's talking to Moses, that people need to bring an offering to do what? To build the house. But the offering they were bringing, that was necessary. For example, they would bring wood, the cassia wood. They would bring very strong wood, whatever that was needed. Today, we don't build like that time. Today, we build in style. The type of church we are going to build there, it's when you breathe, this is God's house. It's not something that people were building Rashid. We are going to build God a house. I'm ready to build God a house. I'm determined to build God a house. I pray that God can raise partners here, that we stand together to go and build the house of God. Banabe suka chelete now we are McDonald's are investing something for a lifetime and build God a house. Ka chelete na ya o reka ba luxury ra reka dikoloi tsa o fapa fapana ar agele morena ntlo. Let us build God a house. It's an honor to be alive at a time where people are still wanting to build, because you are going to partake. Or one day when you are gone, or I build God a house. And because I build God a house, it's forever and ever before the eyes of God. It will never be forgotten. Let us go and build a house. Let us go. Let us go and build him a house. Trustees, are you there? Please come. And your building committee. One more time. By the grace of God, we were able to secure a piece of land, the other side of the mountain. Somebody said to me, Muruti, mudima anya kirizama monel mafias. But I also land. Or it is God who gives land. You don't throw away land. The time where we live, especially in Gauteng, it's almost impossible to get land. And when God is giving you 2 hectares, you can't fold your arms while no, I'm waiting for municipality to come and give me land. The things I was preaching about, they must happen in that place. The rehabilitation centers must be there in that place. The training centers must be there in that place. People must be trained, they must be empowered, they must be healed. The prayer tower things, the campsites must be there in that place. Hey, I thought that I am alone now. And the good news is, we are not leaving this place, but we are building there. And God knows why we have to build there now. And we're not going to build Kawi Tatlola. We are doing a sanctuary there. People don't mind to drive from here. They do not mind. One day, municipality and we can find ourselves stranded when God has provided us a huge land. A private school, restoration center, private school. Primary, secondary, yarina, kwa. And when you are doing the private school, I want to do some community. Because he knows what we want to do. If you read the whole vision, as big as it is, all these things will go to Kuman. We will have the recovery centers there, even for drug addicts. Yes, we will have recovery centers. We will have centers where people will have to recover from divorce and things. We'll have to have a place there. I don't know how God wants to do it, but recovery center is going to happen there. The vision that God has given us is bigger than Nel Mafias. And we are not going to fold our arms. Now that land, we signed offer to purchase for that land. And we gave them nothing, but 75,000 we gave them. And 75,000 is nothing compared to where we are going. Those people have been very patient with us. The land was over 1.2 million, and they decided to give it to us 700,000. Which means if we gave them 75,000, we still owe them 625. And I want to thank God because Rena Mudimu refilled the resources. If you don't believe me, come on, take them. God has given you resources. If white people can do it, we can do it. So our target is we want to finish paying that land this year. We want to finish paying that land this year. The other thing that our finance committee have been doing is to save money as much as they can. And they've been saving. I can't tell go finance. But they've been saving what they can save so that they can rescue us when we need rescue. But we are going to build that place. We're going to pay it off and start building. Today we are dressed like this because we show the seriousness. So we are building God a house. Honestly speaking, 600,000 looks like it's a big amount. But who can tell me the value of this mukuku? Value, ya mukuku. You know level la sompo choro mukuku ukarwanela ikaba bakai. Who no guess anje? Who can guess? Like you go guess. Orar kabar spend bukai udi mukuku. Eh? I want to hear. 250,000. The stage alone was over 100,000. Just the stage. 120, 100,000 plus. The sound alone over 500,000. Mukuku ona. Masangi alemo. Mo di mo fere. No level la so. Ubono rekaba makai. Do you know it's over 300 Amazange modim? Fail. I will look at my side, I will look at it cheap. If I was to give value to this mukuku, at least I would speak about between 4 and 450,000. This mukuku. Because every time we were extending that portion. The last portion, I raise 60,000. I 150,000 to extend that portion. So it means we might be sitting around here over 1.5 to 1.2, 1.7 million here, including the sound and everything. And if we can do that in a mukuku, we can do that in a building. So, how did we raise 450,000 to do this? It was very simple. People just committed, and we were able to do it. Together we can. In this church, we've got over 400 people. In this church, we've got how many? Over 400 people. Think about it. If we group ourselves in teams, that will make the work lighter for us so that we don't have to roll a load, and we break ourselves in small teams and we set targets for ourselves. If we can have at least 12 teams and each team raise 10,000, it's 120. If each team can raise 10,000 every 2 months, so that every 2 months, 120. Or what is the best method? But trustees, maybe they can give us a better idea. How do we do it? Because now we are prepared. We are going. Yeah.
Yeah, so Mamrud Rapanyan is going to break us into smaller groups. Well, actually, in about 10 to 12 groups. She's already sort of categorized us. But basically, we work out, each group needs to raise plus minus 2,500 per week. And that's a group of more than probably every 400. We are talking about between 30 and 40 people. And if you actually calculate it, it's not a lot of money. We're talking about maybe between 100 and 500 bucks per person in that particular group. The idea is to raise the 600,000 rands over the next 6 months. Meaning even if we had 10 groups, it means each group only needs to raise about 10,000 rands in each month. We divide over a group of 30, 40 people. And the reason we did so, it's so the minute you say 6